He Krishna, He Yadava, He Sakheti, Yatmat Prahasartham. So I called you many small names for making jokes, and I treated you in an extremely Sakheti Matva Prasabham Yaduktam, He Krishna, He Yadava, He Sakheti, Ajanata Mahimanam Tavedam, Maya Pramadat Pranayena Vapi. Out of ignorance or out of my excessive affection for you, excessive intimacy, excessive closeness, I did not realize your greatness. So Arjuna is totally floored now to realize the greatness of Paramatma. So but still his curiosity is not completely quenched. So now he only says, I want to understand. Etad veditum ichchami. Earlier many times you tell me that. His questions are, you report to me, you narrate to me, you explain to me. You see, that is how the earlier questions. So here he expresses his desire, and Krishna Paramatma responds to it by explaining these terms: Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Prakriti, Purusha, Jnana and Jneya.
In the tradition of teaching Bhagavad Gita, there are some interconnecting slokas between the adhyayas. In the tradition of teaching Bhagavad Gita, there are some interconnecting slokas between the adhyayas. In the beginning of this Trayodasha Adhyaya, I saw one sloka where it is established that in the previous chapter, that is Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, how devotion should be towards that target is given. And in the beginning of this 13th chapter, he says, through bhakti, to uplift my devotees from this worldly bondage, I am going to explain you the tattva, he says. So here can we say that is it a platform being paved by Lord Krishna to combine the ontological aspects and metaphysical aspects to bring them into the same platform through introducing this Prakriti, the terminology like Kshetra, Kshetrajna.
Absolutely. No, you have put it very correctly. Here he is bringing him back to the globe. In the 11th Adhyaya, he had taken him to the cosmos, where he could show his all-pervasive presence, the Kala, and Pradesha, Vartaman Kala, Bhuta Kala and Bhavishyat Kala get merged there. He uses in one sloka, that is, I have killed them, you kill them, you will be successful. So both Bhuta, Vartamana, Bhavishyat are combined. So my interpretation is to tell Arjuna that in this space or in my overall universe, Khilanda Koti Brahmanda Nayaka, he is. So there is no distinction between Kala and space or Akasha or Avakasha. So after doing that, in the 12th Adhyaya, tells that to achieve me, it is possible. So don't get so much flabbergasted by seeing me everywhere. You can achieve me. So that is why he comes down to Bhakti Yoga. Every Adhyaya is linked to the next Adhyaya by arousing some curiosity in Arjuna, whether it is Adhyatma, Adidaivika, Adibhautika. So in the previous Adhyaya, towards the last sloka, he brings in these concepts and makes him realize. Then even from 2nd Adhyaya to 3rd Adhyaya, he talks about Sthita Prajna. Then suddenly Arjuna gets confused whether Buddhi Yoga is superior or Karma Yoga is superior. When he starts asking questions about Buddhi Yoga and Karma Yoga, in the 4th Adhyaya, he emphasizes the role of Karma Yoga. And you are eligible only for Karma Yoga. Some people are eligible to go directly to Buddhi Yoga. So that way, all the Adhyayas very, very closely linked with each other. Towards the end of each Adhyaya, in that conversation, Krishna arouses some curiosity in him to get to the higher levels, higher and higher levels. So that link is very well brought out by all the Acharyas in seeing what Krishna Paramatma had said earlier and how this Adhyaya becomes relevant. You are very right. In the 13th Adhyaya, he is going to bring Arjuna to the present globe, the present earth. And in the earth, you have got all the material resources, you have got the human beings, and you have got the bhavas or the emotions, and then Paramatma. So how these four should be linked with each other. materialistic dimension of the interrelationships. That is why all these concepts are required: Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnana Sadhana and Jnaya. Then starts giving the instructions, or rather the definitions of each of these. Next sloka says that, idam shariram kaunteya kshetramityabhidiyate etadyo veti tam prahuhu kshetrajnam iti tadvidaha. So he says, hey Kaunteya, we have seen that Krishna Paramatma addresses Arjuna as Partha and Kaunteya whenever he has to show affection, compassion and some sort of concern for him. In other places he uses more robust or generalized addresses as Arjuna, Bharatarshava, but Kaunteya and Partha are coming at places where he wants to show affection and give to him some wisdom of intimacy. So, idam shariram kaunteya kshetramityabhidhiyate. Again, this word sharira here is interpreted by different acharyas in a different way. Of course, the apparent meaning is that this body. But later on he asks the questions. Krishna Paramatma himself says that I am going to give you what is the Swarupa of Kshetra, what are the different categories of Kshetra, and what are the Kshetra Vikaras, and who commands this Kshetra, and then what are the characteristics of that commander. You see, there are 6 questions himself categorized by Krishna Paramatma, and then Sanghatas Chetana Dhritihi, the concept of this Sharira, the body as we see in the human beings essentially, is the reaction, the interaction of the different components of the concept of Kshetra. That is why here Sharira, as per some commentaries, particularly Raghavendra Swami's commentary, is referring to the more basic source materials of the formation of the universe. See, it's a very good etymological meaning. Raghavendra Swami himself was a great Vyakarana scholar, He was given the title of Mahabhashya Venkana Bhatta before his sannyasa itself by his Guru Sudhendra Tirtha. In every commentary of Raghavendra Swami, the Vyakarana part excels. In fact, there is need for somebody doing a thesis. Shariram means Shara Himsaya. Ira means Ira Prerane. Shar Chasau Irascha. So that means the entity which provides Himsa to the Jivatma, he is Prerita by Paramatma. So the word Sharira is made to refer to Avyakta Tattva, Ahankara Tattva, Mahat Tattva. These are like as we say, electrons, protons and neutrons. Etadyo veti tam prahuhu kshetrajna iti tadvidaha. Say that if one knows that Avyakta Tattva, Ahankara Tattva, Mahat Tattva are the basic source materials for all the objects in the universe, he would be called as Kshetrajna. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayo jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama. Now he addresses Arjuna as Bharata. Suddenly a more profound theory or prameya is brought down. So he says, Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. So I am the only one entity who knows all the elements of Kshetra. When you refer someone as knower of everything, then he is the commander. See, in an office, the CEO is supposed to know all the departments. In the governmental system, the Prime Minister is supposed to know all the departments. In the higher level, the President of India is supposed to know all the elements of the Constitution of India. So like that, in the family, head of the family is supposed to know. So that is why he knows everything, means he commands everything. So it is due to Paramatma that all the elements of Kshetra behave in the way in which they do. And so you must know the difference between Kshetra and Kshetrajna. That person would be a true knower. Yatta jnanam jnanam matam mama. One who knows this is the knower of the true knowledge. So he is a good teacher, Krishna Paramatma is a good psychology expert, a good professor, and he many times raises questions on behalf of Arjuna and answers them. And I was told by one psychology expert in this forum that this is how a psychiatrist has to do. Occasionally ask the patient to raise questions, but most of the time he or she should anticipate the doubts and the questions of the patient, of the client, and answer them. Then the client feels very encouraged, inspired. Oh, he is also thinking about my doubts and answering. So you will find in Bhagavad Gita this approach adopted by Lord Krishna. Only occasionally he allows Arjuna to test whether he is attentive or not. He allows him to ask questions, but most of the time he himself raises the questions and answers them, so that Arjuna becomes very alert. You see, now he says in the next one, I find there is a lot of profound research methodology in it, so to say. You know, as I said, I am trying to interpret Bhagavad Gita in the most modern jargons or issues of life. You see, here he raises 6 questions about the concept of kshetra. Tat kshetram yaccha yadrikcha yad vikari yatascha yat sachayo yat prabhavascha tat samasena me srunu. He says, I am going to tell you more knowledge about kshetra and kshetrajna. As you asked the question, relevance of this to Arjuna, I said I am going to give you deeper knowledge about kshetra and kshetrajna, so that you posit yourself in the midst of the present practical world to behave in a very robust, optimum, satisfying manner. You see, then he says, tat kshetram, whatever I called as kshetra, yaccha, yaccha means what it is, what is its form, definition, simple definition. Yadrakcha, that means what are its different categories, typologies. Yadrakcha, yat prakaram, yadrak means yat swarupam, yat prakaram. Then yad vikari, their transformations, what are all the different forms. Just as if you have a mud, the mud can be converted into a pot, it can be converted into a cup, it can be converted into certain other objects. All our Ganesha Vigraha, all these are made from the mud. So these are all, so to say, vikaras. Not Ganesha is a vikara, but Vigraha is the evolutes. You have said it very correctly. Yad vikaricha. Then they start functioning. If the vikaras or the transformations, the transfigurations are there, they are not dead or inanimate objects in the context here. They function. They do have moods, they do have emotions. Then who commands those emotions and moods and activities? Yataha yat. Yataha means from whom. Yat means in gatau. In gatau, and yat is its niche prayoga. That is what Raghavendra Swami Guru says. In gatau is eti. Yat means yapayati. So the one which makes them function. Who is the person who makes them function? In Keneshitam, Parvati is supposed to ask the Ishvara, Keneshitam patati prishitam manaha, Keneshitam vachamimam vadanti. Then he answers chakshuchas chakshuhu, srotrasya srotram, manaso mano. So who makes my eyes see? Who makes my ear hear? Who makes my nose smell? Who makes my ras? So there is the basic question we all are bothered about. So he says yataha yat, from whom this activity or the function takes place. Then sacha yaha, who is that person? Then yat prabhavaha, is his capacity confined only to manage these things, or he has got some more capabilities? Yat prabhavaha. So there are 6 questions. Yat yadrik, yad vikari, yataha yat, then yaha, yat prabhavaha. So these 6 questions he raises. These are very good tips for research methodology. Whenever you take a subject, you must first define the concept that you are dealing with, and then you must say what are all the different shades of, suppose in your field of management, you could have investment. Investment is a big concept. So there too, then you must ask, how do you define investment? That is one first question. Yat yadrak, what are the different categories of investment? Fixed investment, circular investment, or foreign investment, direct investment, portfolio investment, yat prakaraha. Then yad vikari, what are all the transformations or the effects of this investment? They may be on technology transfer or job creation or shifting the lifestyles of the people. All the products coming out of the investment have impact on us. So yad vikari. Yatascha yata, how do they get managed? Is it the foreign, the role of organization, the role of management? Are they governed and managed by only the foreign investor, or you have a joint venture, or the government plays a role? No, I'm just trying to mundanize these questions, you know.
Sir, this is an epitomizing sloka.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. We have to look at the different situations or slokas in the context of the present world and the principles that they narrate. To give you an example, incidentally, just it comes to my mind, he says, I did the wrong things to you, but you need to really pardon me. So he says, Piteva putrasya sakheva sakyuhu priya priyayarhasi deva sodham. Here again, very profound message for our society. He says, you pardon me just as a father is supposed to pardon his son's wrongs. What a profound message. Today we find that there is no proper relationship of understanding between father and son. Similarly, father and brother, I mean a man and a brother. So, piteva putrasya. So, father should pardon the wrongdoings of the son should seek the pardon from the father, just as Arjuna did for Krishna. Is a message for life.
Intellectual humility.
Intellectual humility. Sakheva sakyuhu. If two friends are there, you must always have an attitude of understanding. Husband and wife. Yes. Today, why do the marriages get broken down? I am told in some cases within a month, the girl says, I won't live with you. I'm saying the extreme. The boy says, I'm not living with you. So that is because there is no commitment to the Saptapadi vow that you take during marriage. There is no faith in it, and Purohitas do not explain what is the meaning of Saptapadi commitment, and you deviate from it within a very short period, and the marriages break down. When we are trying to emulate the culture of the Western world, so to say, without understanding the profoundness of our own traditions, cultures, and rituals. So, piteva putruhu sakheva sakhyu priya priyayarhasya deva sodham. So, he gives three examples of interrelationships where the harmony, happiness would be based upon mutual understanding and give and take, as we say in life. So, like that, different slokas give to us the principles of life. If we look at them in that manner, we will realize its relevance to our contemporary life. If you only say, as some people ask me many times, I gave a series of lectures in Vienna when I was in Venedo. One Austrian asked, what is your Bhagavad Gita? It preaches Arjuna to kill your nephews and his nephews and gurus and so on. The same thing happened with the Russians trying to ban Bhagavad Gita, saying that it promotes himsa. Same misunderstanding is there in our midst in the present times. Many people say it preaches discrimination, it preaches hierarchy, it preaches lack of understanding. Contrary to that, if we get the proper messages of Bhagavad Gita, you find that it is a very profound framework of a better society in the present world. So when he asks these 6 questions, he is showing to us the way to look at the inquiry into any subject. I gave the example of investment. Similarly, you can take any subject where first is yat, swarupa, yadrak, yat prakara, then yad vikari, its transformations, its effects, then yataha yat, who controls and manages it, and what are his capabilities. So these 6 questions he keeps on narrating one by one very systematically. Then to arouse interest in all of us in the answers to these questions, he says, Rishibhir bahudha gitam chandobhir vividhaih pratakan brahma sutra padayischeva hetumadbhir vinishchitam. At many occasions he says the point or the prameya which I am going to tell you is accepted by many from time immemorial. So he says, Vivasvate proktam vivasvan manave praha manu ikshvakave brutvid evam parampara praptam evam rajarshayo viduhu, the karma yoga. It has not been first I told to Vivasvan, and then Vivasvan told to Manu, Manu told to Ikshvaku, Ikshvaku told to the Rajarshis, and it has come. But in recent times, that means in the times of Lord Krishna, it had gone. But so then again it has happened like that in the present world. Mahata kalena nashtaha. So that we have to say it again. We must request Lord Krishna to come and preach us once again. Mahata kalena nashtaha, what has happened. But even if Krishna does not come to us, Vedavyasa has given such a profound literature to us. By studying that, by properly teaching them in the schools, colleges and universities and in the public at large, we will be able to get the principles of Bhagavad Gita useful for us. That task, it is our responsibility of all well-meaning and knowledgeable people to spread the message of Bhagavad Gita for our everyday life, so that we can denounce the mischievous misgivings or misinterpretations and show its usefulness for the welfare of the society. So he says here that this Kshetra, Kshetrajna, all these things are explained and praised extensively by rishis than in the Vedas and in the Brahma Sutras, with lot of logic in them. This again could be a subject for a lot of PhD research work as to how these concepts and principles are stated in different Vedic hymns, in different Brahma Sutras, different Puranas and different rishis in Purana, etc. So he makes a very broad statement. Rishibhihi bahudha gitam. It has been praised by many rishis in different ways, in several ways. Then Chandobhihi vividhaihi prathak. Chandobhi means Vedavakyas. So various Vedavakyas have narrated details about this. Brahma Sutra Padaishcheva. You know Brahma Sutras? Brahma Sutras are the compositions of Vedavyasa to enable us to interpret the Vedas in a proper way. All the three Acharyas, Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, have written profound bhashyas on them, and many of their followers have written many commentaries on them. But ultimately, Brahma Sutras are meant for establishing the greatness of Paramatma. Sarvaguna Paripurna, Sarvadosha Vidura, then the sadhanas, in the third Adhyaya, Jnana, Bhakti, Vairagya, Sadhanas, and the fourth Adhyaya, the concept of Kaivalya or the concept of Moksha, Vaikuntha. So, Brahma Sutra Padaihi, from Brahma Sutras also you will get some insight about raised. And Hetchitam, Brahma Sutras are supposed to be highly logical. And you know, in Brahma Sutras, they give us the principles for interpretation of the Vedas. You see, Upakramopasamharo, Abhyaso Apurvata Phalam, Arthavadopapatti Lingam Tatparya Nirnayam. So how do you know that this is the final meaning of Vedas? There are these different modalities, Upakrama, Upasamhara, like that, you know. Ape Dikshitra wrote Upasamhara Vijaya, and Vijayendra Tirtha is supposed to be written on Upakrama, Parakrama. There have been a lot of differences, shades of differences, but all of them have used Upakrama, Upasamhara, Abhyasa, Apurvata, Phala as the modalities for interpreting the Vedas. By looking into these, so what he says is that whatever I am going to tell you is not my own, you know, interpretation.
So through this we can get the argumentation techniques also.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have drawn a very correct inference. Argumentation techniques. So here Krishna Paramatma is doing all those roles himself. So he is playing the role of an opponent, he is playing the role of proponent, and gives us the modality of establishing a thesis very effectively.
So normally if someone suggests something, we'll say, if you play my act, then you will know how difficult it is. Like.
Okay.
But Lord Krishna, he does everything. When he wants to be playful, he is playing.
Yes.
And when he wants to be a lovable person, he has got more levels than anybody.
Yes, absolutely.
So he knows how to do that job properly. And when he wants to fight, he knows how to fight.
Yes.
Seriously, vigorously.
Exactly.
That's how he has managed all the roles, and he has shown that as an example.
Exactly. No, this is kind of inference we should do. You know, when we take only the recent example of Mahatma Gandhi, if some people project him as a half-clad mad person, as some of the Britishers tried to do, you will not know his greatness, the greatness which he played in the freedom struggle, in motivating, in mobilizing the country, the people at large towards the goal through ahimsa. But if we know the principles for which he did that, the half-clad mad person who went to England in the winter and argued with the British, they were all flabbergasted. In this winter he is still running with a bare body, and so the argument for him was that I will not clad myself fully as long as the last poor man in the country will not be able to get his meals and clothes. This is the principle for which he did. Same is true of our great personalities. whether it is Lokmanya Tilak or Dadabhai Nauroji, so many personalities that have happened in our midst, you know, Jawaharlal Nehru, then they all stood for certain values, you see. Then same is true of our acharyas, you know, they all stood for certain principles. And unless we get the principles dedicated or learned, you will not be able to appreciate their role. Now, Shankaracharya's principle was to resurrect Vedas. When the Buddhists had overpowered the intellectual world, and Vedas would have been lost totally if Shankaracharya was not there on the philosophical domain. He protected the Vedas to that extent. And then Ramanujacharya came, brought in the Bhakti movement, Saranagati movement. Madhvacharya came, he emphasized the role of duty. See, I call Madhvacharya philosophy as 3 Ds, devotion, duty and divinity. That was the time when people had become, you know, obliviators of their duties. That was the occasion of Muslim rule, the Britishers were perhaps, the other onslaughts were taking place. People had lost touch with their own duties, were not committed to their duties. So, karmanyeva adhikaraste, that principle he brought it through his Dwadasha Stotra, Kuru bhunkvacha karma nijam niyatam haripada vinamra dhiya satatam. Then he defines dharma in the most beautiful way. He says, swasva vihita vrittya bhaktya bhagavad aradhanameva paramo dharmaha tad viruddha sarvopi adharmaha. So, most secular definition of dharma. So, all these are the principles. That is, if you do your prescribed function with bhagavad aradhana buddhi, that itself is dharma.